Before we dive in, let me leave you with a truth that echoes across every chapter in human history. Nothing we are began in silence. Every civilization, every story, every ancestor left a trail of wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. What you are about to hear is a part of a legacy, preserved, decoded, and brought back to the forefront. I'm OG Mooney. Welcome to AI Legacy Lab.
Have you ever heard of the Moors? It's a name you might have come across in history books, but the story is often simplified, sometimes even erased. What if I told you that this story is one of the most important chapters in world history? A tale of African and Afro-Arab peoples who didn't just visit Europe, but reshaped it from the ground up for nearly 800 years? This isn't just a footnote in history. It's a foundational piece of how the modern world came to be. So, let's travel back in time and uncover the real incredible story of the Moors in Europe. Our story begins in the year 711 AD. Much of Europe was in what's often called the Dark Ages, a period of instability and decline after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Knowledge was fragmented, cities were shrinking, and progress had slowed. But across the Strait of Gibraltar, a different story was unfolding. A diverse group of North and West African peoples, along with Arabs, collectively known as the Moors, crossed into the Iberian Peninsula, what we now know as Spain and Portugal. This wasn't just an invasion. It was the beginning of a cultural and intellectual revolution that would last for centuries. These weren't just warriors. The Moors brought with them a treasure trove of advanced knowledge. They were masters of mathematics, carrying the numerical system we use today, including the concept of zero, which was a game changer. They had sophisticated understanding of astronomy, able to map the stars with incredible precision. Their medical knowledge was centuries ahead of Europe's, with practices in surgery, pharmacology, and hygiene that were unheard of at the time. They were also brilliant engineers, introducing advanced irrigation techniques that transformed the arid landscapes of southern Spain into lush, fertile farmlands. Imagine stepping into a Moorish city like Córdoba during the 10th century. While cities like London and Paris were little more than modest towns with wooden buildings and muddy streets, Córdoba was a dazzling metropolis. It was the largest city in Europe, with a population of 500,000 people. Its streets were paved and lit by streetlights at night, a concept that wouldn't reach other major European cities for another 700 years. There were hundreds of public baths because cleanliness was deeply valued in their culture. And at the heart of it all were libraries, not just one, but dozens of them. The main library of Córdoba was said to contain over 400,000 books at a time, when the largest monastery library in Christian Europe might have had a few hundred. These cities, Córdoba, Granada, Seville, Toledo, became vibrant centers of learning and culture. They were true melting pots, attracting scholars, poets, and scientists from across Africa, the Middle East, and even Christian Europe. In these halls of learning, Jewish, Muslim, and Christian thinkers worked side by side, translating and building upon the great works of ancient Greece and Rome, which had been largely lost to the rest of Europe. They didn't just preserve this knowledge. They expanded it, making their own groundbreaking discoveries in science, medicine, and philosophy. The universities they established were magnets for the brightest minds, laying the groundwork for the European university system that would emerge centuries later. Let's talk about some of the specific innovations. In agriculture, the Moors introduced crops like rice, sugarcane, oranges, lemons, and cotton to Europe. They built complex irrigation systems called acequias, many of which are still in use in Spain today. These canals and water wheels turned dry land into thriving agricultural regions, creating an abundance of food that fueled their society's growth. This wasn't just simple farming. It was a science. They wrote detailed botanical treatises, studying plant life and methods for cultivation. In the medical field, their contributions were astonishing. The surgeon Al-Zahrawi, known in Europe as Albucasis, wrote a comprehensive medical encyclopedia that was used as a standard medical text in European universities for over 500 years. He invented over 200 surgical instruments, including the forceps, the surgical needle, and instruments for cataract surgery. He pioneered new procedures and emphasized a scientific, observational approach to medicine. While much of Europe relied on superstition and prayer for healing, Moorish physicians were performing complex surgeries and developing effective treatments based on empirical evidence. And then there's the architecture. The legacy of the Moors is literally carved into the stone of Spain and Portugal. If you've ever seen photos of the Alhambra in Granada, you've witnessed the peak of their artistic and engineering genius. It's a breathtaking palace and fortress complex, filled with intricate geometric tilework, delicate stucco carvings, and stunning courtyards with fountains that seem to defy gravity. Or consider the great Mosque of Córdoba with its iconic forest of red and white striped arches. These weren't just beautiful buildings. They were masterpieces of design, incorporating advanced mathematics and engineering to create spaces that were both awe-inspiring and functional. Their influence can still be seen in the tilework, archways, and courtyard designs across the Iberian Peninsula. Now, it's crucial to address a key part of this story that has often been minimized or rewritten: the African identity of the Moors. Later European narratives, particularly after the Reconquista, when Christian kingdoms reconquered the peninsula, often tried to downplay or erase the African origins of the Moors, portraying them solely as Arabs. But the historical, artistic, and even genetic evidence tells a different story. The term Moor itself originally referred to the inhabitants of Mauritania, a region in ancient North Africa. The armies and people who arrived in 711 were predominantly North African Berbers, with later waves of migration including people from West Africa as well. Art from the period clearly depicts Moors with distinct African features. Genetic studies conducted in modern Spain and Portugal show significant North African DNA markers, a direct legacy of this nearly 800-year period. To ignore the African roots of the Moors is to misunderstand their history and their impact. Their culture was a unique blend of African, Arab, Jewish, and Visigothic European influences, creating a multicultural society that was, for a time, one of the most tolerant and advanced in the world. So, why does this all matter today? It matters because the story of the Moors directly challenges the old colonial narrative that Africa was a continent without history or contribution to global progress. The knowledge that the Moors brought to and developed in Europe wasn't just a temporary boost. It was the spark that helped ignite the European Renaissance. The preserved texts of Aristotle and Plato, the advancements in mathematics and astronomy, the navigational tools like the astrolabe that they perfected, all of this flowed from Moorish Spain into the rest of Europe, providing the intellectual fuel for the age of discovery and scientific revolution. When Christopher Columbus set sail, he was using navigational charts and tools that were direct descendants of Moorish science. The very foundations of Western science, medicine, and philosophy owe an immense debt to this period. To understand the Moors is to recognize how deeply African history is woven into the fabric of Europe and the modern world. Their legacy is a powerful reminder that history is not a simple story of one culture dominating another. It's a complex, interconnected web where ideas and people move across borders, creating something new and brilliant in the process. The story of the Moors isn't just African history or European history. It is, quite simply, human history. It's a story of innovation, of cultural fusion, and of a legacy that continues to shape our world in ways we are only just beginning to fully appreciate. By remembering and celebrating this history, we gain a truer, more complete picture of our shared past and the incredible contributions of all peoples to the world we live in today. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more hidden histories, and share this video to help set the record straight. See you next time.
Another chapter reclaimed, another piece of history placed back where it belongs. If you have found any meaning in this, let it sit with you. Let it sharpen your vision, not just for the past, but for who we are becoming. I'm OG Mooney, and this is AI Legacy Lab. Honoring truth, protecting legacy, one story at a time. Until next time, stay curious.